make sure they are balanced. Okay, what's a good leader? Who can be a good leader? Many students give me a blank look, shrug their shoulders. I don't know. My mom wanted me to. You need to have passion. How does the competition honors relate to Ivy League school admissions? From our last 10 years of graduating seniors, there are obviously numerous examples, way too many to mention on one slide, but I will highlight a few. Kelly, she's actually one of the current crop, still deciding between Harvard and Stanford. Okay. Leon, also accepted by multiple schools. If I'm not mistaken, he's from Southern Cal. He's actually at Stanford, just finishing freshman year. Jonathan, already attending Harvard. I think he's going to third year there. Angela, also attending Harvard, and she's one of the Siemens winners among the group of students I show here. Many of our proud students, right? Mariana as well, already graduated from Harvard and has already been accepted to Yale Law School. By the way, anything can happen, even when you study science. You still can do pretty much anything you want to do, okay, when you're at the top tier. Fanning, also attending Harvard. Okay, so do you see a pattern here already? All these Intel Science competition winners, they pretty much pick between the top tier colleges, right? Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Princeton. I mean, I haven't, if I go down the list, it's pretty much who's who, the Ivy Leagues, right? MIT, many top tier schools, okay? But I have to give every parent a cautionary note, okay? Winning Intel Science competition or STS is not a guaranteed ticket to the top tier school. Case in point, okay? This is in fact one of this year's current semifinalists from Southern Cal Public High School, one of the best high schools in the country, by the way, highly rated. 4.35 weighted GPA, 23 something SAT, whole bunch of SAT 800s, and more than 10 AP5s by the time he applied to college last year. Applied with all these accomplishments, as you can see, right? Local, state, national science competitions, piano, CM10, and also passed advanced panel. 3 summers of research experiences at UC Irvine. Coaches local mass comm teams, middle school teams. I noticed many of the Intel Science winners also are good with maths, right? And many of them coach younger students in their maths competition activities. And this student has also done that. He's also the Wings Club president and founder, which is a community service organization in his high school. He does track and field, junior varsity and varsity as a junior and senior. Robotics team treasurer, has won many national awards in robotics competitions, so on and so forth. Many good activities, okay, all around. As you can see, very competitive student. For his common applications, unfortunately, he decided to write about his UCI research for the common application short essay. And he wrote about both of his Wings Club and MassCom coaching for his long essay. Okay. We actually knew of this student when he was a freshman in high school already, because he came to Ivy Max, took the SAT class, and got 2310 in his first attempt. Done with it sophomore year, beginning of sophomore year. But then he disappeared from our radar screen. Right? Over the years, he's accomplished a lot, but he has what we call the typical Asian or Chinese student syndrome. Okay, science competitions, math competitions, all around good grades, GPA numbers, SAT scores, many activities, but no passion. nothing special, right? All of what he does, many other Chinese students do. In fact, many other Chinese students do just as well as he did. Okay? And then of course, he thought he was so high achieving that he can handle everything by himself. He applied to colleges, MIT early. What do you guys think the results are? Rejected by MIT. That's when his mother really panicked, collected all his materials, MIT applications, plus common applications that he's already turned into Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and many other top-tier schools, because it was already close to the middle of December. And when we reviewed his materials, we already told his mom back around December 15th that all of these other schools, he doesn't have much of a chance. Okay? And I'm not saying Berkeley is a bad school. Berkeley is an excellent school. But he could have achieved much higher than that. Okay? The fact that he wrote about his WINS club activity and his mass comm coaching activity in his Common App long essay is a strategic error. Okay? From that point on, any reader to that essay, no matter how well it's written, no matter how many interesting stories there are, think about this. It's a 500-word essay. If I have 500 words to talk about one of my best accomplishments, something through which I've learned my lifelong lessons and able to grow up because of that experience, and yet this students only have about 250 words or roughly 200 words to write about each one of his two activities, who has an advantage? Who has an advantage? I have 500 words to write about my best thing, and he can only spend about 250 words on each. Who wins? I have 250 more words to go into depth to really show more vivid details and more depth about my brain, my heart, everything else, right? Who wins? I do, right? Okay, so first and foremost, number one rule about college application essay writing, focus on one thing. You don't have 10 pages like your Intel Science report allows 20 pages to write about something. You have 500 words. Okay, those precious 500 words should be focused on one thing, your best thing. Okay, so I mean, he has made so many strategic mistakes. Common App short essay about his UCI research. Why? He already attached the whole full research report, and in some other schools' instances, at least the abstract. Why write another essay about it, right? He just wasted another essay opportunity. Okay, all of your essays should stay away from your academic pursuits. Talk about your other things, other life experience stories. All right? Okay, so what are some of the important takeaway lessons? I have here Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Stanford's admission deans' pictures. Okay, some parents laugh when they see it. So, well, Mr. Wei, we don't have to become personal friends like you guys do with these deans, right? No, you don't. But pay attention to what they say, what they write about, what they put out in the media. Okay, this day and age, there are many, many channels and avenues for them to speak, for them to make known what these top-tier schools' quote-unquote value systems are. Okay, I think this is a very good example. It's actually from Yale's admission dean. It was written in the form of a commencement speech to one of Yale's recent graduating class. Okay, so as a commencement speech, we know that's the last advice for graduates who are heading out, who are leaving Yale as graduates, right? These are precious advice that Yale people are giving to their students. In fact, he asked 10 very specific questions in that speech. He said, if your answer to any one of these 10 questions is negative, you're not a qualified Yale graduate. That means you are not worthy of a Yale diploma yet. Okay, so I just randomly picked 3 out of those 10 questions. And as you can see, none of them really have anything to do with the graduating Yale students' what? Intellect, right? Okay, so in 4 years at Yale, what has the school done in terms of educating these youths, in terms of preparing them, getting them ready for society? Number 1, have you learned how to lead by putting your own ambition, your own benefits behind the common good? That's what they use to measure whether you have potential to be a leader in science, in industry, in government, in anything you do. Okay, what's a good leader? Who can be a good leader? That person has to put his own good, his own benefits, his own desires behind the common good. Okay, second question. Have you learned to love someone or something beyond reason? Beyond reason are the 2 key words, okay, for those of you kids in the audience. Because over the last decade, when I talk to students, when I talk to parents, especially during our initial meeting, I ask them why they have done X, Y, Z, why are they pursuing something. Many students give me a blank look, shrug their shoulders. I don't know. My mom wanted me to. That's not how you become a success in college or beyond college. Okay? You need to have passion. Americans say things, more directly, right? So he said, have you learned how to love someone or something beyond reason? Basically, are you passionate about someone or something in life? Right? You need to do everything with a passion. You can't just shrug your shoulders and say, well, okay, someone said this is important to get into Stanford, that's why I'm doing it. No, you really need to do everything in life because you love it, okay? You want to do it. And only that approach will really make you happy while you're doing it, while you overcome difficulties and challenges, while you run into all kinds of hurdles. You're not going to blame your mom because she wanted you to do it. Okay, so it's very important to really find your own passion, find your own interest. Okay, and when you apply to these top-tier schools, boy, they are going to see through that right away. Okay, whether you really are pursuing something because of your own passions, or you're pursuing something because someone tells you it's important to do that. Okay? So second one. The third one is almost the same as the first, right? When we exercise empathy and compassion, invariably it's going to bring inconveniences or difficulties to ourselves from time to time. But even with that, do we still keep exercise compassion and empathy towards others? 来，中文说做好事做善事，总会给自己带来一些不便或者不利。就是那样，我们还能不能够坚持做好事做善事？ Right, how we should train them to become the next generations of leaders in society in all different kinds of fields. Okay? In fact, this is even more direct, directly from the Yale admission dean about how they form their freshman class every year. Okay? They're looking for people with 3 kinds of qualities. 1, students who would make the most of extraordinary resources assembled at Yale. And that is one characteristic of many of the Intel Science Talent Search winners, right? They know how to leverage resources. They know how to find the best mentors, find the best experts, teachers to guide them through their endeavor. Okay? In scientific research, that's the case. In your college applications, same thing. Almost all important decisions during high school make sure you can leverage resource, because when you get to college, especially when you get to these top tier colleges, in fact many of the private high schools already do that, they expect you to be able to leverage resource and be able to use help when you need help. Okay, so be smart about it. Don't just go through the whole process struggling on your own. Okay. Second kind of characteristics, those with a zest. Notice the words they use. Zest. Okay, again, passion, right? To outstretch, to stretch the limits of their talents. So if you're only talented as a high school student and you're not really that outgoing, you only need, or you only know how to study and stay in your own room, that's not the kind of people they look for, right? They want people who continue to challenge themselves when they get to college, still stretch their limits and really push themselves, okay? And the final point, the most important point, what is it? And those with an outstanding public motivation. In other words, those young people who have concerns that are larger than themselves. I mean, if that's not telling, what is? Okay, get involved in community service in your own local communities. And get involved as a starting point, okay, especially for many of the youngsters in the audience. Get involved at home. If you don't help your mom with family chores even, when you tell your interviewer at these science competitions or eventually college application interviews, when you tell them you want to do great things, you want to help others, you have all the empathy in the world to really care about others and help others, they're going to call your BS out right away. You don't even help your mom, who's your dearest and most loving and the closest. Who are you going to kid when you say you're going to help others? All right? So I do that all the time when I used to interview for Penn. Ask students very pointed questions and make them gasp and say, uh-oh. So really start from the small things, okay? Start from home. And really be someone who's compassionate about others, about your siblings, about your parents. Start from there, and then move beyond that, and really your local communities and to society at large. Okay, really do something meaningful, do something worthy in your high school years. Okay, so what is the true significance of winning Intel honors or any other scientific competitions like the Intel competitions? Okay, when it comes to Ivy League school applications, anyway, okay, since I've been doing pretty much that over the last decade, I think I have a lot to say about it. So let's focus on that point. When you connect your Intel experience or any science research, science competition experience with your college applications, this is what we have found over the years. At least among all of those examples I gave you earlier, who went to Harvard, went to Yale, went to Stanford, even though they're all Intel science winners or Siemens science competition winners, they don't just have science honors, okay? Almost all of those students, they have self-confidence. They're willing to take risks. And they have value systems that are very much aligned with the elite schools. Okay, in other words, you know what we already talked about, right? Service. In fact, in Stanford's admission lingo, if you look at the middle section, they not only have high IQs, which is what Intel Science Awards honors indicate, okay? They all have very high EQ. In fact, the negative example I showed here, that student's EQ I really question, okay? Which is why, think about it, even after he made so many mistakes in his college application effort, it's still his mom who's handling these affairs for him. Okay, To this day, I have not seen the student face to face. He used to be our student when he was a freshman. So high EQ is very important. Okay. By the way, emotional quotient. So in Chinese, 情商也很重要。Okay. 智商是不够的。更重要的是第三个 ，the last quality is even more important. Okay. What is LQ or CQ? That's the next test. Anybody knows the answer to that besides Ivy Max staff? Well, L stands for leadership. Leadership what? What does Q stand for? It's the same, right? Quotient. So how much potential do you have as a leader? What is your leadership quotient, your leadership potential? That is used by all Ivy League schools. Okay. CQ, what's CQ? CQ is Stanford's lingo. Stanford always does this. They don't want to differentiate themselves from the East Coast Ivy Leagues. So they only use a different terminology, okay, just to be cool. California, right?
Confident.
So what does CQ stand for?
Creativity. Confident.
Contribution. Okay. Many years ago, this is not the current dean, Shin, the previous Stanford admission dean. We were having dinner, and always happen this way. When you're having dinner with Shin, the table mates always ask her questions about Stanford admissions. Okay? She can't get away with it. So one parent asked, what does leadership mean? Right? How does Stanford evaluate its students to see whether they have leadership or not? She answers with a very precise and short phrase. She said, for Stanford, leadership equals service. It's as simple as that. Leadership does not mean the number of titles you have, how many clubs you founded and you are presidents for in high school. Okay? It has nothing to do with positions and titles. It has everything to do with how much contribution, how much service you have provided to your family, to your local communities, to school, to other parts of the society. Okay, so it's very important to have contribution, to have service as part of your record. And then, of course, the final point, unselfishness, empathy, and service. Okay, in Chinese, I like to use what has already become a pretty famous phrase, 为人民服务. Don't laugh. It's not actually from Chairman Mao. He borrowed it from Harvard, from Princeton, from these schools. Seriously, because 1800 something, Harvard's president already gave Harvard undergraduate students a famous sentence. It's carved on the Dexter Gate at Harvard Yard. Okay, so for those of you who are going to visit Harvard campus someday, go look for that gate. It's carved on the gate, 1800 something, when they were expanding their campus. What does it say? It's from Harvard's president earlier. It says, enter to raise your wisdom. 进此门提高你的智慧. Exit to better serve thy people and thy nation. Right? 出此门更好的为人民服务，为国家服务. Exactly those words. To better serve your people. 这不是为人民服务是什么 Okay, 1800s. So obviously, Chairman Mao took that phrase, right, from these elite higher education places in the U.S. Okay, so very important. So what does that tell us, right? Things like the Intel Science Competition honors really matter. In fact, we see that in many students' cases, right? They do help them become more competitive. But those are not the determining factor. Okay? Those students who happen to also get into Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, because they have other things in addition to just science research, science competitions. Okay? You need to be a very balanced and what we say, 德智体全面发展的学生。Okay? 光是智是不够的，德也很重要。 而且是排第一的，来德智体嘛。All right, so thank you very much, and I think we have even more speeches and sharings from the students coming up.